Hey, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're super pumped. Have you had a good weekend so far?
Yes, nice,
Yeah.
very nice. Met a lot of Oregonians.
Organic Oregonians.
There you go. Well, since we're at Comic-Con, I always love to ask. We're all Uber fans of something. We have a lot of Chips fans in the room. Did you have something you loved growing up, or were you comic readers, or any shows that you're major fans of?
I like cop shows.
Yeah.
And the Long Range. I used to dream I was the Long Range. The horse and everything. The white horse.
Yeah.
I liked cowboy movies, you know, Rex Allen and Alan Ladd and Robbie Robot. I used to love the robot things. So mostly Western.
Yeah. Clint Eastwood fan?
No, Clint Eastwood wasn't around then.
No, I hadn't had TV yet.
Yeah.
But we are fans of it now.
You wouldn't know any of the people I knew.
I lived in the cartoons. You know, one of my guys remember Hackle and Jekyll?
Oh, how about the Three Stooges?
Yeah. Casper. Original. And Daffy Duck was my favorite. And you see what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so have you've been at a Comic-Con before? We've chatted before. Is this your first Comic-Con, Eric? Your second? Awesome, awesome.
Second.
I'd love to know, so you are an avid motorcycle rider, correct? Are you an avid motorcycle rider as
I
well?
ride now, but I didn't
Yeah.
ride when I got chips.
Oh, really?
They had to teach me, and then I crashed.
Liability. Liability.
Yeah, good liability in my life. Yeah, we're doing a lot.
Yeah. Are there any memorable episodes or just moments that really stick out to you both from filming?
Yeah, you know, Eric could probably do the same. He was almost died in a motorcycle accident with chips. So they were going to do open heart surgery, and he crashed his motorcycle really bad, and it smashed his sternum up against a camera car and broke his sternum, and they thought ruptured his aorta. And then when they took him to the hospital, I went with him to the hospital, and the priest came and gave him last rites. And so he...
But Larry, since he's a vet, and he knows about, you getting hurt, and he just kept me talking, kept me, your eyes open, look at me. Yeah, when I was on the ground, because I was internally bleeding, punching both lungs and stuff as well.
So they put us on a trailer after that.
No more doing your own stunts.
Well, no, it was a chase. It was a normal thing. We had rehearsed it, and we shot it. We shot it twice. Then it was Friday. We're losing the light. Friday, the weekend's coming up, and they yell it's a wrap. I'm back in the motorhome, taking off the uniform. The next thing you know, there's a knock on the door. Mr. Estrada, you got to come back to the set because they had a hair in the lens. Don Weiss was directing. They had a hair, so we had to shoot. I was put all everything back on and get out there. And the stunt guys, when you yell rap, the first thing they do is they split. Because they want to jump out of planes and do their weekend. What they do, recreation. And so the MGM put a teamster in there, a young kid, who had rehearsed with us where to stop. And I plowed into the car, he stopped too soon. Or I was going too fast, whatever. That's what she wrote. But I didn't mess up my hair though.
There you go. Well, what inspired you both to start acting? What, or did you kind of fall into it, or is there a particular?
I don't know, you know, I was studying music at the Beverly Hills Music Academy, I played piano and electric organ. And so this old lady said, "You look like Boy Next Door. Did you ever think about acting?" And so, make a long story short, her name was Lois Hauer, an old acting coach in Beverly Hills. And next thing I knew is I had two old agents, two female agents, Jean Halliburton and somebody else. I forgot, they were like Alan Ladd's agents at one time. And then I was starring in the television series, Lassie. I grew up in Wyoming, by the way. I called my brother in Wyoming, "Dude, I'm starring in a television series." And he said, "What is it?" I said, "Lassie." He said, "You're not starring in it, the dogs are starring." Well, kind of. But that's how I got started.
Well, I wanted to be a cop all my life since I was 4. But at 18, there was this pretty girl. It's always a girl. Pretty girl, and I wanted to get with her. And to meet her, she was in this acting thing, and I said, "Hey, I grew up in the streets of Spanish Harlem. I can act. Just make it up, you know." So I auditioned. I got in, and I'm in there about a week and a half, and I get bit. There is a bug that bites you. And I got bit, and I didn't want to be a cop anymore. So I started chasing the thing, and I ended up as a cop on TV. And then 13 years ago, I became a real cop. I didn't make crimes against children.
So do you think, from acting, do you think that's helped do what you both do today? Because you both do a lot of different work outside of acting. So did that experience kind of say, "Hey, I want to do something else," to spark you to make a difference in another industry, or did it really just lead you into the direction you both are now?
Well, I wanted to be a cop since I was 4, because my mother dated a cop. But I wanted to find out if I still had that passion when I was his age. I wanted to see if I still had the passion, and I realized I did. So I chased it, I went after it, and I've been doing it quite a while now, 13 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with playing cop on TV. It had nothing to do. Hello. 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 Hello, can you hear me now?
There you go.
Oh, okay. So, no.
You notice I gave him that one.
No, I love what I do, you know, and I'll step out and knock off a commercial here and there and do something here and there, you know. But they always want me to play Erik Estrada, you know, because CHiPs was so popular and so embedded in people's, the two guys, that if I try to get something like Miami Vice and play a really bad boy, I wouldn't get the shot, because too identifiable as Punch. But prior to that, I was always the stereotypical Latino bad guy, and until things got, then they put me in uniform, they made me a good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there an experience in acting that you had that you would tell other, like, young actors? I know that some people, a lot of times in these panels, there are young actors in the crowd and just kind of want to know, how do I get started? Like, where do I begin? And usually, it's keep creating opportunities for yourself. But what advice would you give any young actors that are trying to get into the biz?
No, if they wanted to get in, I think, number one, you have to have the passion. If you have children or sisters, brothers, siblings, if you will, that want to be in the film business and as an actor or actress, there's a combination of things, in my humble opinion. In my case, I started doing commercials a lot in the beginning also. So commercials were great. I did all the Union 76 commercials for 5 straight years, and Alka-Seltzer and Prel shampoo, and you name it, right? And all these commercials that I did, sometimes I'd only work 10 days a year and make 6 figures, a year. It was like, I'd wave to the neighbors when they went to work, and when they came home, I'd be waving. This is a kid selling drugs. But so I would say commercials, number one. Number two is sometimes I tell people to make your own film. When somebody says, "Let me see your reel," you say, "Here's my reel. Your brother, your best friend shot it. You can edit it today. The kids do the drone stuff so well. the digital capability in terms of digital technology allows you to really, really do good stuff. Better stuff than we were doing back with an Aries camera and old Panaflex, right? So the whole digital capability is pretty unique. So you could create 1, 2, 3 movies about yourself, if you will. Film scenes in an acting class of you and somebody that's talented. I always tell people to try to do it with somebody's talented so it doesn't look bad. The scene doesn't look corny. But that would be a great way to start.
And the other thing is make sure it's something you absolutely love, that fills you up personally. You're not doing it for grandma, grandpa, or your mom. Make sure it's something that you do. That's why I got hooked on it. That's why I've always wanted to be a cop. My mother gave me a cop. And the first man I ever loved was a cop. Any one of those Michael Jackson things. But when I got bit by the acting bug, I liked the feeling that I got. And it grabbed me because you really got to use yourself when you start out. When I did my first 3 weeks on the street, patrolling in the streets as a real cop, we stop a car, we get somebody out, they got crack, or go in the car, it's a young girl, they got a baby in the back. I would stand there and do 45 minutes to an hour of doctor filling this person. And felt that's what I had to do. And then I'd have to process them, take them down to county and process them, turn them over. Then I'd find out when I get to county that they had a stack of busts this big, and I say, Christ, I'm making myself nuts, trying to give therapy on the street. And my sergeant turns to me, and I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. They got a warrant, hook them up, let's take them down, turn them over, let's go back to the street. And he says, well, it took you long enough, meaning that, because the job changes you. In acting, if you do it because you love the feeling that you personally get and what you create, and nobody could take that from you. People will say, hey, I like you when you did that part and this and that. Good. They felt what they felt, but they didn't feel what you felt while you were doing it. That's what made me want to become an actor. But being in the business 40 some odd years now, I'm a little hardened by the business. Everything changes. But that feeling, the only thing I don't like anymore about the business is the process.
Any questions?
Hi, thanks so much. I want to thank you both for the show. I'm a huge fan. My wife and I actually fell in love watching CHiPs. The story was it was in syndication in our college town. We'd go down to the TV lounge in the dorms and watch. And over the course of, we're always looking for that one episode with the punk rock band Pain. We were always searching for that one episode until we finally saw it. Anyway, long story short, we're now married and have 3 children. It's been great. Which brings me to my question. The episode we were searching for was, Ponch and John versus the punk rockers. And it seems like every episode seemed to have a little morality play. Ponch and John versus the drug dealers. Ponch and John versus the car thieves versus the punk rockers versus whatever the hot issue was. So tell me, was that explicit as you guys were making? Did the producers and writers sit you down and say, okay, this week is CHiPs versus this social ill or anything like that? Tell me about kind of how that process happened and how it felt to be addressing the so-called issues of the 80s.
For me, it was just the writers wrote the scripts, handed it to the actors, you memorize the dialogue and do the scenes. So we weren't included in terms of, what's the writer's intent, what's the result of the writer's intent, what's the subliminal suggestion, what's overt. So, they don't tell actors that. They say, here's your role, try to bring something to the character if you can. And in our case, it was really the chemistry between the 2 characters. We were opposites, yet we respected and really liked each other. So I think that's what helped in our series. But no, they didn't do that. But you're right, there was a moral to every story. There were parallel stories usually, which meant there was a personal story and there was a police story. Personal story may be Ponch eating ding-dongs in his motorhome and why he's eating ding-dongs. Right? And the police story may be we're getting the punk rockers or whatever. Right? So that was it. And then those famous freeze frames at the end that tried to make us look good. Right?
No, there was no time to sit and chat with them because we were we always put in like an 82-hour week. Remember, the show was an outdoor show, so we had to lug everything, cars, bikes, and chases that we had, explosions that we had, the stunts that were coordinated and done. I literally lived in my motorhome, and we had no life. And if you had a life, it'd be totally be destroyed because it was a 14, 15, 16, sometimes 20-hour day for us. So they give us a script and we just go with it. But yes, they always had a main thread that went through it. But we had little vignettes of situations, but there was always a main thread. And that's, I think, was very endearing to the elders. And especially because you can park your kid in front of the TV, then you can walk away.
Or a college kid.
And not be worried about what they were going to see and hear, as opposed to today, you know. Today everybody's visually desensitized, you know, they got to have sensationalism, visual sensationalism. They got to see the bullet go in and hit the organs and blow up the back. You know, when you made love on the screen in the old days, the curtains would move and you knew they would make love. Today, if you don't see it, it ain't doing it. You know, I mean, it's just got, I think it's tougher today for children. I think TV is tougher. There's so much stuff out there they got to deal with. They're constantly getting bombarded with stuff. Then you got the internet, which is fine. This is the future. It's here. It's going to stay. It's going to get more futuristic. But it's also a very dangerous place. It's a lot of danger. They got too much to deal with. You know?
Thank you so much. Well, by the way, that episode, you got to do a Cool in the Gang cover in the final few minutes. It was a great episode. Still.
Oh, the song.
Yes.
Yeah, where I sang Celebration.
Yes.
That's because this guy, they would say to him, we're going to do a country and western thing, there's going to be a hold down dancing. We're going to write it for Larry. And then Larry at the last minute said, I ain't doing that. He said, okay, we'll get Punch to do it. And I would have to go and bust my chops and do it. That song, he was supposed to sing, because Larry plays guitar, right? And he was, you know, he was supposed to do a song. They say, Larry said, I don't want to do it. He said, well, we'll make Punch sing. So, but it was cool. And, you know, Punch shined because of Baker, you know, because the two opposite tracks. The first time I met, like, I laugh about this, because I grew up in Spanish Harlem, in the projects, okay, when Harlem was Harlem, right? Today, I could have bought it for a nickel, but you can't today. For $5 million, you can't get an apartment this big, so it costs you. But when I first met Larry, I was coming in to read with him because they already set him and decided, okay, well, we're going to bring some guys in to read with Larry. This is already set and see how the matchup is. And I remember he pulled up on was it a Datsun or a Toyota? A Toyota pickup truck. And I saw him pull up, and I looked at him and I stood there while he parked it. And I saw he had a bale of hay in the back, and a saddle. And I said, you got a horse? It was like a big thing for me. So I remember that, I don't forget that. And then GM parking out there. So, you know, it was a good trip. It worked really good. But Punch couldn't have shined if it wasn't for the Baker character. Well, this would be one guy who knows the book, but always getting in trouble. I was always stepping in it, you know.
Did you have to test with a couple different characters? Or
Well,
different actors?
I had the screen tests. Did you screen tests? I
don't
did.
think so.
I had to because up till then I always played the Latino with the gun, the knife, the brick, the bad bottom guy all the time, right? I don't say that because I'm so kidding. I always had to play the bad guy. So the producer wanted me, Rick Rosner, who created the show, wanted me in the role because he saw something in me. He saw the part of the character that he wrote being, you know, impetuous, can't sit still, always move like I am. So NBC said, you know, we don't like that choice. So he said, well, let me screen test him. I screen tested him. Because they knew me already. I did Medical Center and all those shows, Kojak and this and that. I was a killer in Hawaii Five-0. I shoot priests and stuff. I kill people. And I was a junkie in Mannix. And then Beretta, I was a prisoner. Always the bad, or an arsonist in Kojak. I was always the bad guy. And NBC the brothers were the guy that we see, was a bad guy. So the producer said, well, let's screen test it. He put me in the uniform and screen tested me. Visually, that neutralized me. And then I got the role. But if I hadn't screen tested, I wouldn't have gotten it. The uniform did it. That got me the job.
That's crazy.
It was really tight.
I really did the uniform, make it tighter.
Hilarious. Yeah, I interviewed Danny Trejo once, and he said the same thing about being a Latino actor. My dad's Latino, and so he was really excited. He loves you too. He was really excited.
Well, Ponch was Poncharelli. All the characters in the show was named after somebody that the creator of the show knew. John Baker was the producer's, the creator of the show's nephew, Jonathan Baker. And Gutierrez was his college roommate. And Poncharelli is a priest in the Vatican, a personal friend of Rick Rosen, who created the show. When I got the part, I went into and signed. I went into the office and said, you know what? For the last 8-9 years, I've been playing the bad Latino stereotypical. I said, there's no Latinos playing prime time, family hour, in a good positive role. Why don't we change his name to Poncharello and make him Hispanic American? And it was the very first positive role. So I had the opportunity, I took it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and after we came Eddie Olmos, and you got Jimmy Smith playing lawyers, and Hector Alessandro, director of the hospital. Otherwise, we'd still be breaking windows. I guess, I don't know. Somebody would have done it.
It's interesting what you said earlier about TV today. There's so much overstimulation. It's just almost like it's a blessing and a curse, I think, because there's so much with technology, there's so much opportunity to produce your own show or anything like that. With superhero shows and movies in particular, I'm just curious on your thoughts. It's great because they can bring this world to life, with all these different planets and galaxies that they live in. Do you think that people need to start finding a balance between what's too much and then what enhances a story, almost? Or do you think the superhero movies, it's like they're doing too much, they need to scale it back a little bit?
I don't know. I think that everybody has their own palette. So, like they're doing a new Chips movie that sometimes I condescendingly say looks like Dumb and Dumber and Chips. But it may be a really good movie. I haven't seen it yet, so it's premature for me to judge it. But to answer your question, sometimes there's a genre of film that overstimuli, overstated, over graphics, over CGI. But it appeals to certain palates, so get over it, Larry. So some people like that. Right? Personally, I like simple stories about simple people that are having a hard time in life. And that Trek to me is a fascinating psychology of it, the subliminal suggestion of their pain and their sorrow, not being over the top with their pain and sorrow, but always withholding that and subtly working through it and finding solutions in their life, just like all of you do every single day. And we do too, by the way. And whether it's disease in your family, or opiates, or heroin with your children, or prison issues with offspring or your loved one, or physical abuse or alcoholism, or whatever it is, we all have similar issues in our lives. And to me, those are the movies I personally like. And you all have your own palette.
Makes it more relatable, though, when you talk about problems that problems or issues that everyone can relate to. That's why we get so invested in different shows or things. Yeah.
Superhero movies are fun. I like them. I like the spaceship stuff, and I love Ritter, Vin Diesel stuff. I like this kind of stuff because I can turn off my mind and just watch and enjoy the effects of everything in it. And that's cool because I know it's not real. So I enjoy it for what it is. I think a lot of the shows that are on TV today, they're a little bit too real or too progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, which I think are very dangerous if you have your kids watching this stuff without supervision of what is right and what is wrong. It all comes down to what you do in the house with the kid. You know? Like, for instance, I got a 17-year-old daughter, right? I said, no boys until you're 17. Well, she's 17. First boy comes around, I go, oh. So, and I had just come in from doing some stuff in LA, because I'll go on ride-alongs in LA, but I gotta wear a mask. So when you go to pick up people off the internet, you know, trying to take your child. And I just got home, and she was, you know, she would say, Dad, me and Ben are gonna go. Who's Ben? Well, he's a senior. She's a junior. Me and Ben are gonna go, and we're gonna have a ice cream at Cold Stone or whatever, Baskin Robbins. I said, okay. Okay, Dad, another time. Saturday morning, getting up, we're gonna go Freeman Park and go jogging. Okay, with Ben. I said, okay, I wanna meet this Ben. I wanna meet this guy. He's taking up my time. He's taking my time and my daughter, right? But girls are funny. Girls, you know, when they get into that 16, 17, they go away and then they come back in the 20s. They really do. I mean, I'm living. I shouldn't have bought her a car at 16. That was another mistake. So anyway, I said, well, I want to meet this guy. It's time. No, I want to meet him. I want to meet him. I said, okay, Dad, he'll come over Saturday because we want to go to the Galleria, City Walk, and see a movie. I said, okay. So he comes over, and I'm putting out the trash because I just got home and it's time to put the trash out. It's going to be picked up the next day. And he sees me, and then what am I? God, I got my pants. That's what I call it, non-uniform gunman, everyday piece. And he gets out of this car, BMW, and he's teenager, right? I said, you've been. And then I said, man, what a mutt, this guy. I was expecting, you know, Robert Redford or something. Bring Brad Pitt home, you know. She brings a mutt home. So I say, hey, you know what? Before we go in the house, let's go for a walk. We go up, I live on a hill. I live in the hills. So I'm walking up the street, and I'll tell you what, let's do something. Let's switch places. I said, you're the father, and I'm the 17-year-old coming to pick up your daughter, who's never had a boyfriend, who's never was fond of anybody. You're the first, and she's your princess. What do you want to tell me what to do and what not to do? He's lucky he said the right thing.
Probably looking at your gun the whole time.
Well, yeah, I think that freaked him. But, and I say that story too because you got what's on TV for kids to watch today. You got boys kissing boys, girls kissing girls. I mean, it's a way, I got nothing wrong with it. It doesn't concern me. The fact is, young minds shouldn't be having to deal with that. That's young minds. It's like when a child loses their innocence, they never get it back. It's a proper time to lose your innocence. It's a proper time in being exposed to certain things, but not in the living room, if you're home, you know, on just standard television. So you got to be on top of it. So I went that way because I like to choke this kid out for him to show up. I'm not ready to give up my kid.
She'll come back though. My dad and I are much closer now than we were when I was 7.
Yeah, see, it does help. But you got to stay on top. Stay on top of your kids. But you can see a movie with special effects and all that, enjoy it for what it is. But the other stuff is the stuff you got to be careful to expose kids to, or even yourself watching. You know.
Any question?
Have you ever arrested or stopped a fan that ended up a funny story?
If I ever arrested a fan?
Yeah, you ever stopped someone and it turned out to be one of your fans?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We did about 11 years ago. I remember this and I forgot it. We had a crack house in crystal meth, you know, crack was something dope. And we went in there And we had a search warrant, and we searched the place. It was a 55-year-old woman with no teeth. Right? She was dealing. So this was in Indiana. And I had to put the cuffs on and take it to the car and put it in the back seat. She says, "You know, the Irish weddings are meeting you. Not like this." I laughed all the way to the station. So she was a fan. But she had a dog. I did do that. Yeah, that's the story.
It doesn't excuse them, you've never given anyone, you know, freebies because they've.
Honestly, some don't. There's no, that's so dope. That's not it. Because you're blowing somebody's life, but their life gets blown up. I have a people that love you, love Barbie. Their lives, they gotta deal with it. It's like when somebody steals your identity, gets your credit card, and maybe gets your social security number. You know what a hassle it is to get that cleaned up? It's years. It takes people to get all that cleaned up.
Oh, any
Sorry.
question?
Hi, thank you to both of you for your work and for being here. My question is for Mr. Estrada. Some of the funnest like episodes like were the ones like where you did martial arts, like the one where you had the new chocolate fight with like that bad guy.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, did you do martial arts in real life, or did you just learn it for like the show?
Well, when I knew that we were going to be doing some of that kind of stuff, and we did a two-parter, I started taking it up. We used to have this kid named Richard Agalander was his name, and he at 5:30 in the morning he would come when I lived on Colfax in Streeter Village. 5:30 in the morning to work me out. I hated him. I had to learn some moves. I had to learn, so I started training, and I trained for a while. Yeah, it was really good. But once we shot the episodes, I kind of slacked off a little bit because we had other, me and Larry, we worked forever. It felt like forever. I don't want to do another series like that. Especially if I were to do another series, I'd want to be fourth or fifth banana, where I show up maybe twice a week and go, they went that way. Because you got no life when you're two principals of the show. You have no life. If you had a life, it's going to get blown up. It's going to blow up. You have a personal life. It's another thing. If you want to be an actor, if you got kids that want to be actors, you tell them. You don't get involved in relationships that'll deter you from getting to your goal. Once you get settled and you get your feet in the ground, you got money in the bank, then consider marriage and the rest of it. Because the acting world is a different place. It's a whole different thing. Everybody loves it. Everybody wants to go. It's like everybody wants to come to California at one point or another in their life. And you got to be dedicated. That's all. You got to set rules for yourself.
What is Brad Pitt?
And then your life blows up after you become successful.
And you're an avid race car driver, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you still drive race cars? Do you check? No.
Not now.
Left that behind.
Larry had tons of beautiful bikes. He used to fly his own plane. He had a great, what was the name of that great horse he had? That water horse, the roping horse. Remember we shot an episode with him? This thing you couldn't pinch the horse. It was so tight, so muscular. Fastest quarter horse, wasn't it?
And the Toyotas, those were fun, Went to all the race schools, Bob Bondurant Race School, and Jim Russell Race School, and Open Wheel, Closed Wheel Race. Race Baja 1000, Class 8 trucks, 130-mile-an-hour pickup going down the desert, just a blast, And then all of a sudden you're in a cliff, and it's just nuts. And you urinate blood at the end of the 1,000-mile race. It's so hard on you. And then set 8 international land speed records in Bonneville Salt Flats, and got in. I just love speed. I love to feel that threshold of speed, and then that's why I got in aviation. Flew Navy on a single engine, made it into a race car, if you will. Lots of changes and modifications. Flew in jets and Blue Angels and A7s and A4s.
Wow.
I'm from Indianapolis, and we live near the track.
Yeah.
And I'm downtown, but you can still hear for the 500. You can hear them practicing at night. It's just so loud.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I did 3 years and months at PD.
Oh yeah,
I did 3 years with them.
that's crazy.
That's where I went to the academy.
The Ball State, yeah, Ball State, the David Letterman went to school.
As far as my lieutenant is retired, he's now the chief of police at Ball State.
Oh, yeah, it's not too far from me. An hour and a half. I don't think you pulled me over though. I can't remember getting a ticket. Would have remembered. Yeah?
Hi, this question is for Eric. Growing up, my mom watched your show, but then she really was into your show, into you when she started watching the Spanish telenovela Dos Mujeres Un Camino.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit how that was working in Spanish, speaking in Spanish?
Well, I was 44 years old when I was offered that. I was in Mexico at the time shooting a movie called Juana la Cubana, who is like Sylvester Stallone female butch truck driver woman, right? My name is Rosa Gloria Chagoyan. I'm speaking in English, and the other actors are talking in Spanish. I'm being dubbed in the movie because I grew up in the streets of New York, and by the time I was 10, I didn't know how to, I spoke Spanish, I spoke proper, I spoke terrible Spanish, and I didn't know how to read. When I was offered the soap opera, and producer of the Televisa, the big, they own every Latin American country, television, Televisa, you know, the Latin network down there, they decide what's going to go on TV, what political things are going to, they control the country. It's different, you know, it's different than here. So anyway, so he says, we want to do a soap opera. You have an 18-wheeler, you're married with a kid, an adopted kid, you got a partner, and you have the bad guys have a whole company, and they don't like you, and and a girl stows away in your truck, and you just try to help her, and now you fall in love with her, so now you're in love with two women. It was called Dos Mujeres Un Camino, two women, English version, One Direction, me being the direction, which is taboo in Latin America, in any country, two women in love with two women, like to be in love with two women. Like more than, we won't get into that. So he says, oh, but I says, well, you know, excuse me, but you know, I'm being dubbed in Spanish in this movie because I don't speak Spanish. He says, well, don't worry about it. We take it that you were born in Mexico, raised in San Diego, then you came back and married a Latin girl. I said, oh, so I'll probably be saying sí y no in Spanish and the rest in English. 6 weeks later, I get the script, I look at it, I can't read this. I can't read it. So I don't want to just say blank out no, I'm too embarrassed. So I have my manager ask for a half a man. It's 100 episodes, 3 months, because most Latin soap operas, telenovelas, only go for 120, maybe 125 or 100 episodes, and that's it. They move on to the next one. And it's the same story, just different faces, different twists, and mostly the same actors. And I said to him, look, we got to chase these people away. I'm too embarrassed. I can't even read the script. Just ask for a half a man for the 3 months' work. I'd have to live there and everything. And he says, okay. And they said, okay. I said, oh, no. So I said, okay, really chase them away. Tell them that if I got to live there for 3 months, I don't want to live in a hotel, so I want to look at a house. I want to look at penthouse apartments. I'm making it really tough to chase them away. And I want to cook in a car for a year to drive in, and a cell phone, and a bodyguard. And down there in Mexico, they grab you, they cut your ears off, they send it to the States. So you want the rest of him, you send some money down there. That's why I want to go back there. I want to do another soap opera. And the one that I had was, anyway, so. I don't want to lose my ears. My fingers. Anyway, they said yes to everything. Yeah, so I was really caught between a rock and a hard place. So I went to Berlitz in Northridge for 6 weeks. I went to Berlitz, and I got the basics down. And then down there, when you do a soap opera, we do about 6 to 8 episodes a day because it's continuous. And they put a little microphone here, and they run the wire down your back, and you got a transmitter in the back. Then they put an earpiece in the ear, and they feed you the lines as you're acting and doing it. So that took about 2.5 weeks for me to learn how to do that process. I'm not used to it. I'm used to you know, American train. You study your lines and you get ready for the next day. Boom. Or as me and Larry used to do once in a while on the motorcycle, for all that technical just since we had the glasses, I used to take my dialogue on my mirror and the speed on. That's right, partner. You couldn't tell that I was looking here. Yes, I used to do that. So, I learned how to do it. I went down there, and we got to the 90th episode, and I said, 10 more shows, and I'm out of here. I can go home. Got to LA. I had my 2 boys then. They were little, and I was missing them, So then they decided to add another 160 episodes. And then they added another 100. We ended up doing 457 episodes. Wow. A year and a half. It was the longest running, highest rated telenovela in the history of Latin television. Still is today, 18, 19 years later. So it turned into a nice thing, and it really endeared me to the Mexican population, of the Latinos around the world, because they knew I did speak Spanish, and I made the effort. And if you watch the first 20 shows, you laugh. I got into it. And that's the story about that. But I haven't done another one. I've been asked, but I won't do it. I did it really. And I'm into other, my mind's in another place. I don't mind showing up and knocking this off and knocking that off. But get me in and get me out, please. I don't have to live there and do all that. But it was wonderful. It was a great experience for me. And it just, it's really special when you learn the language of your grandparents or your culture, It was a trip. It kind of like gives you...
I feel like it'd be easier to learn. I learned more. My dad's Mexican, and it's bad we don't speak Spanish. It's never spoken in the home. But I learned more listening to Spanish music, or Spanish friends versus being in school. In school you just kind of learn the verb conjugations, but does anyone actually?
Spanish girlfriends are good teachers too.
So you would shoot 6 to 8 episodes a day, and Chips, it was 80 hours a week. How many episodes a week would you both be shooting then for Chips? One episode.
7 working days
Per episode. Wow. But they were, that's...
The days were long. Sometimes we run into night, and it's supposed to be a day shot, so they move us to a wall, light the wall, like the sun is hitting it, and we stand there and do the thing. No, they ruined our lives.
Are there any TV shows you're both into right now? That you're kind of...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Homeland's good.
Billions. Same guy from Homeland, the red-haired actor that was in Homeland originally.
Was you with it?
Yeah, I love that guy. And he's in the new series, Billions, is it? He's so good in it.
I like Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Religious with that, I missed one of those. I love Tudors. I like period pieces because I like that stuff. Costumes and stuff. That's what I like. Costumes.
Oh, the costumes. Yeah, have you seen any good cosplay? Cosplay. That's the term for
How do you say it?
cosplay, like costume play.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right, cosplayers, am I saying that right? Yeah. Cosplay. There were some stormtroopers yesterday. Yeah, and there was some pretty good face paint and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of kids today with that stuff going on. And I saw a couple of guys with girdles. Their butt in the air, walking around. I said, Larry!
That was the phone.
It's great to see people doing that thing and just having a good time. As long as they're not hurting anybody.
What do we have? Are there any projects that you both have coming up? Do you think you'll do a special appearance in the new movie, or is that movie done filming?
The movie is, that movie you can't take a kid to see it because it's, if you see it, you better see it with your adult sense of humor. They don't have the uniform and they don't have the Chips theme. They just license the name. So it's Chips of Today, which You know, it's totally inappropriate for children.
Are there any other projects that you both are working on, TV or film-wise, that we can expect to see you in? I know that you have a couple different ventures outside of TV and film.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, it'd be rhetorical. We're developing some projects in terms of production, but when you develop projects for production, I was with the former senator of Oregon the other day, Jason Atkinson, and he's developing a project that he talked to me about. But, you know, I don't like to talk about projects that are speculative because they're maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda. So I always say, no, I don't really have any projects at this point. Most of my life and my business personally is in technology today. And so what I try to do is own a small part of a company, organize the funding, architect the deal, put the deal together, and remove myself. And then I own, 5% of a company called Enableware that's a really, really neat digital distribution platform. And then I own about 4% of a company called Optech, which is a new device in April. It'll be qualified by the California Air Resources Board. You put on any gas or diesel engine that'll improve your miles per gallon by 20 to 50% and reduce emissions to 0. So those kinds of technologies, I try to get a little bit out and then back off.
That's so great that you both found these careers outside of acting that you're so passionate about.
I T-boned somebody on March 5th of last year in one of my 1984 Silver Spirit, totaled the car. But I got another one in 1980, but I leased one of these Lincoln MKX. McConaughey has a commercial. Yeah. See that bull? Bull, do whatever he wants. That kind of. At least one of those, and this car parks itself, okay? And it's fast, and I have a tendency to really go fast in it. So I started driving my other one, and I let that one sit in the garage until the lease is up, turn it back in. I'd rather drive something that's old and quiet, and that I enjoy the feeling that it makes me feel. I enjoy my old rollers, that's what I ride. But electric car is a great thing. As a matter of fact, my daughter I made the mistake of getting her one. I leased one for her, a Lincoln MKX. And you only get 14 miles to a gallon. And every week she's loading it up because she wants to go to the beach. She wants to go to her girlfriend's here. We just go there.
She's busy. She's got things to do.
Yeah. So I told her her next lease will be a hybrid.
By the way, we're also working on something I want to share with you because indulgently I really enjoy it and I want to share it with you people as autonomous capability within an automobile. So Israelis have developed an autonomous car much better than Teslas, which means that you don't need a driver, of course. Teslas, as you may or may not know, that's where the guy got beheaded, watching a movie on his car while the autonomous group drove the car and went underneath a semi. But having all of the parameters in terms of artificial intelligence drive a car is a really fascinating future. So we're working on that. So it may or may not happen. It's pretty cool stuff.
And that crash that happened a while ago. Tesla's revamped the hardware with new cameras, radar, and sonar technology. So they've redone the NVIDIA GPU processing power on the software. So they're trying to.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars, so he's just busy right now. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, please give them some.